Hey, welcome again. We've got another episode of Cardboard Conversations. As always, I'm Pat, joined by the wonderful, indelible Bob. How you doing, good sir?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I don't know how indelible I am.
Well, I certainly can't ink you, and if I could, I better get two. I better
Hey,
get two
welcome
of
to everybody
those
in the
there.
chat already. Look at that. A big
Yeah, hey
crowd.
guys. Big
Many
shout out.
props
We've
to
got
you guys.
Time Capsule, Johnny Zert, Cosmic Seeds, man, the Solar God showing up. And a big shout out and thank you to all of our channel members. It's people like Time Capsule, Richie Dubs, Solar God, Cosmic Seeds, and Four Keeps Gaming. You're really
Amen.
helping keep us alive and grow even larger. We're creeping up on 1,050 here already for subscribers. So thank you very much for all of your incredible donations and the wonderful conversations we get to have. That's really, to me, and I think to Bob and Matt as well, the real highlight of having the channel here is we get to chat with you guys out there in the comment section and play games every once in a while as well. So it's just been a phenomenal journey so far, and thank you for joining us on this cardboard odyssey.
Oh, we love you guys too there, Solar God. And hopefully we keep you guys entertained and from time to time at least, maybe perhaps give some perspectives that maybe you did or did not have, or kind of solidified thoughts that you may or may not have in the cardboard world. And one of the things that has really been on my mind as of late is that, none of us, not us here on the channel, none of you are just Magic the Gathering enthusiasts, right? And even if we are Magic the Gathering enthusiasts mainly, we have different wants, needs, desires within the Magic the Gathering community. Some people love the lore. I love watching, as much as I'm not a huge fan of him personally, but Perp's lore videos. I really enjoy listening to those and watching those. There's no other place that we can get that kind of information. Speaking of which, there is an update on that sort of avenue for the lore fans out there. So stay tuned a little later. We'll touch on some upcoming stuff for those of you that love the lore of Magic the Gathering. Additionally, it's been kind of a big week. I don't know how many people out there, raise your hand if you're aware that they announced their quarterly numbers. I have not reviewed them as of yet, but I've heard enough from the smoke blowers to know that it's not going to look good.
Yeah, I did hear some scuttlebutt. I saw some other channels, some people in the community talking about it. I do not think it was a positive growth cycle for the company. From what I understand, is it was definitely losses in the Magic community. So,
well, I know it was for Hasbro as a whole. I was hearing that the numbers were good for Magic, but I'd really like to dig into that and understand what they had to throw at that. Realize that a large chunk of the numbers that you're hearing came from Lord of the Rings sales, right? Lord of the Rings sales were strong. So, additionally, this is the quarter of Baldur's Gate 3, which I think Pat can even attest to. That was a big win for them. So we also had a return to like standard play-ish, if you want to call it that, though we haven't really had a massive win in the standard cycles as far as I can tell in recent times. Yeah, I mean, I really want to dig into this, with a big fork and spoon, but not tonight. But we know that this was overall the big net thing is right there at the very top. It's the very first row that the net revenues minus 11%.
Yeah, that's not it's not phenomenal. That's not what you want. In a decent financial time, we're looking for 5 to 8% growth, and minus 11 is pretty far off from that, unfortunately. So
and understand this. I believe this is just the overall Hasbro. They will have a WotC section down there, but take a look at this. Let's keep this in mind because WotC does not operate in a vacuum from Hasbro, right? So if you look, the quarter 3 earnings over last year were quite. If you go up a little bit, you had it up above. There was the WotC, Wizards of the Coast, and Digital Gaming. And this is kind of telling. And if you could scroll just a tiny bit more, so there we go, so that you could look at the last year numbers versus this year numbers. So clearly, what they're talking about in that top segment is the Wizards of the Coast, the second line there, What's important is the last two boxes that they're 100 million above last year this time for the third quarter, right? It doesn't have the year-to-date numbers there. And if you look down at the bottom one where it does year-to-date numbers, it's actually down year-to-date for WotC, right?
Yeah, about 10, 12
So
mil.
understand this. 2022 was a bad year-to-date to this point, right? Nothing mega huge last year. Even double flippy masters was not great. That was the year of Baldur's Gate, right? So I think what you had Kamigawa, Baldur's Gate, Streets of New Capenna, double flippy masters. I'm trying to think what was the third quarter. Oh, and Dominaria United. And that's what you had to line up against Phyrexia All Will Be One, March of the Machines, creepy guy below me now.
Happy Halloween.
So compared to that,
you had Lord.
Yes, you are. The quarterly earnings, right, look good year over year, but that's with the Lord of the Rings. But year to date, year over year, looks bad. It's a net loss, not a huge loss, but still a net loss with the biggest Magic set of all time, right? With the most selling Magic set of all time in that set. And I would compare most of the others, if you line them up against last year, Kamigawa versus Phyrexia All Will Be One. In all honesty, I think that's pretty close to a wash, if you ask me. Especially with the foil, the oil slick foils, boxes with the big hype there compared to like the neon ink. That's again, like I said, they're very comparable. And as far as like, let's take the worst sets, like Baldur's Gate last year's performance, not the resurgence this year, but last year's performance versus what would be the worst set this year so far. Let's not go with the master set yet. What would you say? Like maybe the Aftermath was probably the worst.
Yeah, the epilogue or whatever it was.
Okay, so compare epilogue to freaking Baldur's Gate. I mean, they're both bad.
Say that I at least interacted with the AFR Baldur's Gate stuff, where I mean, I didn't have any interest.
Fair enough.
Tiny little box.
What would you? All right, then compare March of the Machine. That you'd have to compare it with Streets of New Capenna, and I'm going to pick March of the Machine as a better bet than Streets of New Capenna. I'm sorry, the Triomes were better, but the set itself was a big wet fart. Don't forget we had those. What were they called?
I was really into the whole scene that they had set. Either the weird like golden era gangsters kind of a thing was just a big whiff for me.
I wanted to like it, but I did not like the style, right? And as far as like 3-color sets, they're just always such a grunt, And then, to follow up the 3-color set last year, you had Dominaria United in that mix versus, we'll call it, I don't know, Wilds of Eldraine, right?
Solar God does make a great point. Those gilded foils from New Capenna were absolutely gorgeous. Very solid fan of those. Yeah.
Sure, but it wasn't enough to really carry the set. I mean, when you're comparing it, bumping it up against March of the Machine, right? March of the Machine had that, what were they called? The multiverse legends that were serialized, right? Yeah. There's no comparison, in my opinion. I'm sorry. Gilded foils against serial cards, you're going to lose. You had Ragavan and all that shit in there. So sorry, you kind of lose out. I'm going to say that March.
As people wanting to buy into the product for sure.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think March of the Machine beat New Capenna hands down.
As far as like a player collector kind of aspect to it, I would rather have gilded foils than a serialized card because it just looks cool. Just the 455 out of 500 on a card and it's kind of foiled. Just that doesn't do it for me. And that's just to clarify my personal aspect on it. I think the outlook from the market is completely different. The chase of a serialized card clearly sells sets. It's something that people chase after, but there's definitely a middle ground. And I think the Brothers War is a great example of that, when there were too many serialized cards. And I mean, out of 500, yes, but there were too many different serialized cards. And I think that in some sets, there are too few when they do decide to do it. and the choices that they make on it are pretty odd. As a huge fan of Fallout, I like what they're doing with the upcoming set. All the spoilers I've seen, really into, but the serialized bobbleheads, the uncommon being the choice to serialize, is pretty odd to me. Matt, I just want to say, number one, happy birthday. Number two, what do you think about the serialized bobbleheads?
I didn't even know they existed. But one thing I do know exists. So I was glancing through the sets of the year, and I'm looking at the names, and I'm like, okay, I see Mom. There's a name. There's a set that I didn't even know came out for Shadows of the Past, which is the name of it is called SIS, so it's Sis. So you've got Mom, Sis, and then you've got Brothers War, which is Bro.
Yeah.
They're gonna call her father next. I'm like, what? Her dad?
We need auntie and uncle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. ANT, aunt. Yep.
Yeah.
There's no way this isn't a coincidence. In the same year, Mom, Sis, and Bro as set names, like that has to be on purpose.
That's funny.
Maybe it's just coincidental.
There's also Who,
but so let's keep going down this line, and I'll hopefully I'll wrap it up, pick up speed here. So we'll have to compare.
What are you going with? What is your whole point of this? I'm lost.
Sorry, we were discussing. Maybe you came in afterwards, but we were discussing the quarterly earnings. And I'm comparing last year to this year because they're pointing out that, like, oh well, Wizards did super great this quarter this year over this quarter last year, third quarter this year versus third quarter last year. But if you look at the year to date numbers of 2023 to 2022, this point in the year, third quarter, it's actually down this year, right? And I would say that they had better sets overall this year. Now, I'll give it to last year. I think double, triple flippy Masters was way better than Commander Masters in there's no uncertain terms. I mean, I just think it was a better set. I've been through this many times. But it sold better. I would rather have it if you were to give me a box of Commander Masters or a draft box of double Masters 2022. I'll take the double Masters 2022 all day.
And also the showcase cards for Commander Masters were pretty bunk. The weird portrait thing that they did. Not a huge fan of that.
Dude, I just not like the thing just straight up the whole time. I mean,
the Frame Break Jewel Lotus was pretty baller.
Okay, that's one. Again, not a fan of the set. Sorry.
I'm
going to give it. If you were to take a poll vote, I'm going to put money. If you want to put money on it, that it's going to be Double Masters 2022 that wins hands down.
Sure.
Even as far as sales.
Well, that wasn't even.
And look, I'm trying to give something to last year, like trying to give a check mark to a box in last year to justify how the F did last year do better than this year, because I'm about to blow your minds. So even putting all those sets, so we're 1-for-1 sets up to this point, right? And we're even putting Dominaria United up against Wilds of Eldraine, which I'll give Wilds of Eldraine, the advantage there. Now,
Wilds of Eldraine is a baller set. It's got so many good cards in it.
All right. So let me ask you, Matt. So then we'll go through this exercise. What do you think was better? Better this year? We'll just pick which one you think was better or a wash. Okay. So we have to compare last year Kamigawa to I'm blanking. Kamigawa to Phyrexia, all will be one. Which one was better, or was it a wash?
I mean, personally, I like Mom better, just because I don't.
Not Mom. Phyrexia, all will be one.
Pawbo.
That's with the oil slick raised foils.
Yeah, the oil slicks to me are better than the neon ink. I didn't really care too much about the neon ink.
Okay, so but overall, the set, I gave it a wash. I said it was about a tie.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I
would give Pawbo a slight edge because of oil slicked, but I really like oil slicked.
Sure, but I mean, it's close enough that I think it would be a wash. Like I couldn't predict which numbers were better. Let's just put it that way. So if I had to pick which numbers are better, because that's what we're talking about, sales. March of Machine versus Streets of New Capenna.
Probably March of the Machines.
Yeah, serialized cards, Ragavan, just better set. You know, you got Atrax in there, all the Praetors. It's good. All right, so I'm going to clearly give that one to March of Machine. All right, Aftermath versus Baldur's Gate. They're both so bad, but I would have to give it to Baldur's Gate barely, maybe.
I don't know.
Just
There's a
'cause
lot
it's
of
a real
good.
set.
Aftermath is actually not terrible. The biggest flaw with Aftermath is like the limited number of cards, but there are good cards in it.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't feel like it gets opened for. So
Like
as far as
I give
sales
it
are
to Baldur's
concerned,
Gate, but not hugely. You know what I'm saying?
I
It's
think
the
Baldur's Gate
dragons,
by a pretty
Matt.
large
He
margin.
fell in love with the dragons. We were very aware of it ahead of time. You know, Bob loves that kind of playing. You know, that's his
I think
style.
it's better. I think Baldur's Gate is better by a large margin, probably 20%.
Okay, so we'll give it to Baldur's Gate.
Just
then we have
dragons.
then we're comparing Commander Masters to Double Masters 2022.
Yeah, Double Masters is better.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say that one's probably the biggest margin of difference, in my opinion, between the 2 years.
Yeah.
Then Wilds of Eldraine. Hold on, Wilds of Eldraine versus Dominaria United.
Wilds of Eldraine.
Okay, and so with just what we've discussed, would you say that there was one clear advantage of 1 year over another with the sets we've compared?
Sure. I mean, Lord of the Rings is like a pretty big outlier.
I didn't say Lord of the Rings. Stop. Because I haven't added Lord of the Rings yet. I said with what we've compared without Lord of the Rings, would you say 1 year over the other? Because we gave it a wash at Pawbo. We gave it a win at Mom. We gave it a win at Baldur's Gate. So we're almost like even Steven at that point. And in all honesty, Double 22 last year, clearly better than Commander Masters, but Wilds of Eldraine clearly better than Dominaria United, right? So honestly, at this point, it would be very neck and neck, in my opinion, with just those sets in comparison. But here's where it's even scarier. You have to add in Lord of the Rings numbers to this year on top of that, with no set to even compare it against last year. Yet, year to date, the numbers for WotC are down from year-to-date numbers last year, with even one set that was the best-selling set of all time in the Lord of the Rings to give an advantage this year, and we're still behind. I don't think you guys
2022 is not doing great, so I don't even know
now, but it did great last year. It sold great last year.
Okay, I was saying, like, I'm looking at collector boxes for 170, 168.
No. I'm not saying compare it to what they've done up to this point. I'm saying to this point last year, right? Because we're comparing year over year numbers.
Yeah. As far as sales are concerned, they had to have been hyped with all the what are they called? The textured foils. They were pretty hyped.
Yeah.
And I don't think the same. I think the biggest, honestly, I actually think the biggest difference between last year and this year isn't necessarily the quality of sets. It's the expectations that the players now have based on what we've been trained to see and what they're doing.
Okay,
like we're so used to all the craziness at this point. What are they going to do? They can't like keep topping themselves over and over and over again, except for
I love that take, because I agree 1,000% with that. Like, I've been there, and that's why I keep saying it's all gimmick, and that will run out. But what I'm saying is the numbers year to date, even comparing all the other sets to each other without even throwing Lord of the Rings into the mix, it would be like an apparent wash, right? It would be close. But now you would throw Lord of the Rings on top of that, and I would have expected the numbers this year to date, this point, should have been way above the numbers year to date this point last year. And they were not. They're actually down.
I warned you. I swear I said on the podcast, I said, if you have a training ground, sell it immediately, because they are going to plummet into the ground. The moment I saw they were reprinting that, I said, sell them.
Yeah.
You need to get rid of them ASAP. Yeah, what are they down? Are they down to $1 now? Like, what are they?
Dude, that's but see, you can't just you can't confine it to just training grounds. It's all cards at this point.
I can certainly say I felt the same way with Mystic Remora. I probably had a dozen, maybe 15 of them, and then they reprinted the heck out of it 2-3 times after, and there went all of the value I had. I was buying them at $10 to $15 a piece, and then they went down at what, $3-4 maybe now. Yeah, I've
Training
definitely.
grounds
Oh,
went from 32 to 3.
We could pick the cards that have just been absolutely decimated in value. Looking at you, Urza, in rapid succession from reprinting, and we're starting to hear a lot of other content creators do the reprinting. Hopefully, everybody is now off of the reprinting copium and realizing that it is a fucking bad thing.
Yeah.
Even for those that want game pieces. But what I'm saying is I'm surprised by the sales with Lord of the Rings being so hyped and you're hearing left and right. It was the best selling set ever in Magic's history. And yet we're down year to date for numbers.
Yeah, it is
That's
a bit
surprising.
The contrast between how large of a set release Lord of the Rings was, and for it to be almost barely being down as we are now for the sales for the year. It's certainly surprising, and I'm not sure that there's anything outside of figuring a way to gain goodwill back with the audience that they'll be able to rectify the situation. And the high prices of boxes is absolutely killing them. I
I'm
think that's
kind of curious what that's going to do to the buying public. In my opinion, my forecast, and it's just a pure opinion, I don't think people are going to be buying nearly the number of boxes, and so probably less spending overall.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
At least for WotC. I think that they're going to be going to the secondary market, and guess what? That doesn't go into WotC's pocket. Right? So I think that the secondary market, you're going to start seeing probably fewer copies of what it is that you want, but prices just won't stay elevated. It's not like, oh, good. Like there's less quantity of the shit out there. But the problem is the fear of buying a $60 card and just to get the next you're afraid it'll be announced in the next reprint cycle or 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's what you're now setting, you're lowering that willingness, that threshold of dollars for people to risk on cards. Right. The days of buying $100 card with confidence are gone. So where is that threshold? How much would you go out there and buy a card for if you really wanted it, and then you might need 4 of them? How much are you really willing to go out there and drop $50 a copy on? Not Lorcana Magic.
30 cents is what I would pay.
Like I agree with you there, and I think this is what they've created is a market of that. And I agree with Cosmic. He just put it up there. I'd love to see that as a post here. I'm buying 0 play boosters. I just don't care. Right? We're all starting to sound like Coach. Where's Coach tonight? We shouldn't have to make the game fun. It should just be fun. We should just want to buy them.
I think play boosters are going to be the best thing that's ever happened to Magic.
Oh God, I hate you, and I hate that statement, and I hate play boosters.
It makes no sense why you don't like it. It makes 0 sense. Your whole purpose for not liking set boosters was because they weren't draftable, which they still were. But now they're making better set boosters that are also designed to be drafted. So
not really.
What?
No, they're not.
They literally are designed to be drafted.
They're literally 14 cards, and the draft environment has been 15. And now you're putting like 4 rares in a pack. I don't think that helps the draft. I think it just juices it and hyper accelerates freaking the not particularly what's that called when you just make things too powerful too fast, like Yu-Gi-Oh. Power creep, right? You're power creeping draft. You're power creeping limited.
True.
Like
that is true.
Not incrementally. That's like hyper boosting that shit.
It sounds more fun to me. Honestly, draft is boring. Draft is like you make shit decks and you play with a crap deck and you sit there and you draw your hand, you draw your card and you're like, oh, good. I've got this 6-drop 6/6 vanilla creature. How fun is that? Yay.
It's more fun than sitting there on turn 1 just shuffled. Oh, you won the roll? Okay, we're done.
Oh, this next month's league is juicy. It's CDH, no budget. It's gonna be turn 3 wins, turn 2 wins. Let's go.
That gets ugly fast for people, and I left Magic twice for that very reason. Whole hatred scene, hatred shadow. No, back in the day, that just the power creep made it miserable to sit down. You had to play one of 3 decks, or you just were not competitive. And it just became miserable to go in when it was just getting faster and faster and faster, and turn 1, 2, 3 wins were almost the norm, right? And I'm not even talking constructed. That was like freaking draft. And that's what we're heading to.
The whole sorcery thing. What, hey, Solar and Cosmic, let me know what is it about sorcery that you actually like? Can you name like
Yeah,
your
we got
top
these guys
top
shouting
like
out that
thing?
game.
What about sorcery? I don't get it. I've watched gameplay of it. It looks kind of boring. I've looked at the art. Looks kind of boring. It's not terrible, but it's not good to me. I mean,
Matt and I are
yeah,
actually on the same page on this one. I'm not getting it with
I don't get
sorcery.
like I had the option to buy Rudy's sorcery beta box or whatever kit that he has. It's like a graded PCG thing. It's sold out in 2 minutes. So like people want it. People obviously like sorcery. I'm willing to give sorcery a shot, but I just don't understand. I don't even know, how do you even play it? Actually, you know what? It's going to be its biggest barrier. You cannot play it virtually because the board it's like a playing board. Like, I guess you could play it on tabletop. What is it? Virtual
Simulator.
tabletop simulator. Yeah. Like, because like you actually have to have like the lands are shared. Like you have to be able to like, I don't know.
Oh, right.
Like the position on the board matters based on what card you play. So like it's gonna be very difficult to play virtually.
Well, there we go.
Okay,
That's
so they
he likes the art. It's the
artists that are
art
being
that
showcased.
appeals to him.
Right. And is it the art itself, or do you just like that there are people that you're used to seeing their style? Got a bunch of 90s art.
Yeah, see, it's art. That's what I keep
art.
hearing all over the place is art.
Yeah, maybe I'm just maybe it's just I don't know. I figured Bob of all of us would like that kind of art because that's kind of more his era when he was like, I guess, growing up.
I mean, some of it looks cool, don't get me wrong.
I don't.
But it's not as a whole, it's not quite my style, which is the same thing for Empires on the Rise. Legions, Realms at War.
Legions, Realms at War.
It's not really my art style, doesn't really take off the boxes that I'm looking, for, which is funny how much I like Disney's Lorcana. The bright popping colors, the almost cell shaded style that they're doing. And similar enough to a game you were playing, Matt, the Alpha Clash. I like that bombastic kind of superhero vibe that they were bringing. Really cool stuff there. But as far
Clash is
as
a good game,
across the board for sorcery, yes, some of the cards look cool, but I don't have any faith in the game itself because of the mechanics for play. Like you were saying, everybody has like a shared set of lands that they all bounce back and forth. So the style of play, one has to be in person or like you said on tabletop, it's just if I were to collect it, I would just want posters of the artwork and not even support the game. I would just buy Frank Frazetta artwork to hang in my kitchen or something.
Or
yeah, really.
Playmat. I like playmats. If you guys ever come and see my basement, I have like 100 plus playmats.
Damn.
Yeah,
I thought I had a lot. I've got like
I have an issue with playmats, dude.
Actually, I've got like 10.
Joking. Dude, I literally have like over 100.
I've probably got like 4 or 5 at this point. I mean,
I don't think they're, and don't get me wrong, I don't think the art's terrible on sorcery. Like I'm scrolling through the cards and I'm looking and I'm like, they're not bad. It's just there's no nostalgia for me. I don't like old Magic. That's one thing for sure. If I ever have the choice between an old card and a new card, I would say 95% of the time I'm choosing the new art versus old. Maybe even a higher percentage. But there are some cards that look good old. Like the what are they? The Brothers War. Dominaria United, the old like the Darker Lands. I think they're Dominaria Remaster. Dominaria Remaster. They had the basic lands. They were pretty good. I like those actually more than I think those are designed to be older looking lands.
The art style is fine for me, and I guess there's some minimum like necessary art needed. Like, to be honest with you, the Legions, Realms at War starter deck stuff, that art would turn me off to the game. Like, it would be so jarring to look at those cards. I just couldn't do it. So I could understand, like, if you didn't like, I like how Lorcana gets put in there.
Yeah.
But I get it. If you don't now, see, I dig that Nicol Bolas playmat. That speaks to me, and I don't even know if that's a real card, but that's pretty dope. I'm not super nostalgic. I'm not a big anime guy. And old school art, I could take or leave it. It doesn't really matter to me. There's like a bare minimum bar. I'll be honest with you. I think the Flesh and Blood art's fantastic from everything I've seen there. The MetaZoo art just turns me off to no fucking end to that game.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
And also, I think the game itself.
Grand Archive looks really good. I like Grand Archive, but I'm an anime guy, so
I'm not a big anime guy, so it doesn't
hot
really
anime sexy waifus all over the cards. Hell yeah, I'm in.
that I don't care.
It's not really my jam. Yeah. I love
Now
anime.
Disney is
another
like
game
it's
of
a different
Legions.
Lorcana is a different gear for me. And not so much that it's particularly nostalgic. It's not like the nostalgic button, but it's appealing, right? And yeah, I like just to me, you know.
No Pringles. Yeah, card quality is a huge thing.
That art just is, you know,
Gross.
fun. It's nice. It doesn't matter if I'm like, none of it is like all that particularly, you know, nostalgic to me, but it's just everything that they do with Lorcana, just, you know, with the golden borders, with the purple and dark blue and black, like they clearly have professional artists in this, you know, making this whole package appeal, and everything about
also
Lorcana
looks good. But Mickey Mouse to me looks, I don't know, boring.
It's funny, Bob, that you say to you it has no nostalgia. When I was doing the Lorcana pack openings and when we were going through that deck, I've got to say, I really reminisce with my, you know, mid-90s, early 2000s kind of Disney childhood. And there is a lot of those cards that I am just a fan of seeing. I mean, I like the different mechanics and the themes that they're doing along with it. But a lot of the characters are just huge throwbacks to stuff I loved as
most of that. See, I was already an
adult.
I look
forward to the different sets and the Rise of the Floodborn, how they're doing reimagining of characters. You know, like,
but I'm fine with it either way, is what I'm saying. The art on its own has its own non-offensive, pleasant, artistic, well done appeal, right? It doesn't.
Oh yeah, they're definitely never gonna put. They're never gonna put topless chicks on a card. I mean, there's
waifus and like, you know, legs getting hacked off and all kinds of, like, it's just it's easy to look at the cards. I'm sorry, it just is.
Oh, did you see?
I think Star Wars Destiny was very much that way.
Say it again, Matt.
What?
You guys see Godzilla Day -1? What a dumb fucking name for a movie, by the way. There's a new Godzilla movie coming out in December. It's called Godzilla -1.
It looks so good.
It looks good, but the name is stupid. It's the dumbest name. It's just the prequel. I get it, but like the name is stupid. I'm sorry. It's like Godzilla -1. Does that mean he's not in the movie? So if you take one Godzilla and you -1, you got 0 Godzillas. He's not in the movie
definitely
anymore.
In the movie.
It means he lost the first match.
No, from what it means is it's after World War II, after the bombing, and that means that what is it? They're in the 0 status for financial status or something, and -1 is like it couldn't get any worse. But then you got a Godzilla after you got bombed. You're getting attacked by a Godzilla now. That's like the -1.
Like, instead of being set back to 0, you're at -1 because it's such a huge detriment to have a fucking 500-foot atomic breathing lizard chomping down your cities.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of Godzilla. I don't know why.
There's like a promo card for TCG player, I guess, if you spend 75 or more on November 3rd, which is Godzilla Day. I didn't know there was a Godzilla Day.
So Solar God says Disney doesn't do it for him. The art is fine. It's Disney, but it isn't spectacular. The foils in Lorcana do look sick, though. And I got to say, they stay absolutely flat. You get one in every pack, which I got to say, personally, I think right out the gate, too much. They should have done like 1 in 4 packs, get a foil. You know, maybe you get like 6 of them out of a box. Seems like that would be better distribution. Keep that premium because the quality of them is solid. But
I mean, now when you only can get 1 box every couple months because of the $400 price tag.
Well, so that's the thing. I was talking with Bob before we went live, and I've said it, you know, openly here, is that I had a certain price point. If it was less than $200 for a box, I'm pretty much in for whatever I can get. And when I went down and it was $20 for a starter deck, well, heck yeah, I'm going to grab a couple. $7 a pack? Shit, yeah, that's very solid pricing. And as far as paying, you know, $300, $400 for a box, that's fucking ridiculous. I don't think anybody should be paying that. And I think we saw that for like Commander Masters in the Magic the Gathering equivalent. Is no one's paying $300 to $400 a box for fucking trading cards. That's just ridiculous.
Well, they're going up to $150 for the bare minimum.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's going to be worse than people expect. I expect harder financial times coming for the United States over the next coming year, and I think that the increase in price is going to be prohibitive for any kind of growth. I think that Chris Cox is on his heels with the latest financial numbers, and I expect them to get worse. Look, I said it before. I was like, why did they put Mana Vault and Mana Crypt in, Ixalan? Why do you have to push with such big cards? This is exactly why. Why are you selling a desired Fallout set 6.5 months ahead of time? This is why. They're upside down.
Pre-orders in, boys, 6 months ahead of time.
Hey,
they're trying.
I already did.
Well, and it was at a low price point, right? Too. So not only are they selling 6 months ahead of time, like they've done before in the past, but before in the past, the 6 months ahead of time, the price spiked and was just climbing up through the roof.
Yeah.
And you were seeing like they're doing everything they can, I think, to generate as much revenue right now as humanly possible. And I think the more that they do that, the worse it is for the overall ecosystem, right? At some point, you have to catch up, right? And I think it's starting to catch up with them. So I think that they pushed these boxes, and I think that they're going to run out of gas is essentially what's going to happen within the next 6 months. Like, I don't know what they could possibly do. Like, they keep doing it. They keep trying. Oh, let's go with play boosters. Oh, we're going to return to standard play. Oh, we're going to put serialized cards in. Oh, we're going to put Mana Crypt in and standard set along with Cavern of Souls. Like, why'd you have to put both of them in there? It's like they've really laid heavily on the gas pedal, and I think that that's going to come back to bite them sooner than later. I really do. I think that
absolutely agreed. I think that there's going to be a huge slowdown in both the American economy, which is probably the largest consumer worldwide of all Magic the Gathering products. I have not seen any charts, but I would imagine it's mostly an American-based game as far as market share. And with the economy kind of in such a bad place and the prices of things going up, but wages not matching that, I can certainly see some of these expensive hobbies being less and less sought after. And I think we saw that very much so in the last couple of sets. Matt's got some pretty crazy stuff going on there.
Solar God, I honestly don't think that they can. I think that they're doing it too much, right? And here's what I'm saying with that. So they brought new players in with Lord of the Rings, right? And so they're like, hey, there's a game that has Lord of the Rings in it. And they get in, and then they realize, shit, that's just the one set. And what I'm buying, I'm losing vast amounts of money on. And then anybody that came in for the Warhammer 40K, that was it. Warhammer 40K Commander decks, and then that was it. Godzilla, one set, and that was it. How much of these people that love these different IPs sticking around The Walking Dead, the Fortnite, the Fallout, the Doctor Who, the Godzillas, right? That it's not, the game's not about those. So even if it brought them in initially for a short term, are they going to stick around for other IPs? Right? Like, I don't, and pushing the entrenched players out in favor of that, I think that they just did too much of it to where the game, okay, we had a Walking Dead set, but most of the rest of the year was Magic, right? Now it's almost no Magic lore and all universes beyond and at higher prices. And you have to pay more because guess what? They have to pay for the universes beyond IP licensing. So they have to get that money back somewhere. So absolutely. Again, I think that they Watsify everything that they do, right? It's like, oh, hey, let's deep fry French fries. Hey, that's a good idea. Hey, let's deep fry onion rings. All right, let's deep fry a stick of butter. Like at some point you just trip into the absurd, and that's what WotC does. They're the deep fried stick of butter at this point. Like let's deep fry everything.
Hell yeah.
And that's what they're doing. And it's,
tell us your favorite deep fried food product down below in the comment section. I've never had deep fried Oreos. I hear that's like a huge hit.
That sounds good. I'm in.
So again, I think that it's by doing too much of it, to Solar God's point, I think sprinkled in like salt or ketchup on your fries. Nobody wants a bowl full of ketchup with a couple of fries in it, right? They want a bowl full of fries with a little bit of ketchup on it. And
Okay, deep fried Snickers bar, Bob.
Sounds pretty
Opinion?
good too.
French fries, just good French fries, can't beat it.
Oh, potato. Honestly, deep fried potato. You're on it. That's a good point. I think this is a gross opinion, and honestly, Cosmic Seeds, shame on you. Pickles are the
Pickles
worst
are
thing.
amazing. What do you mean?
Uh,
A
Pickles
lot
are
of people
great.
love deep fried pickles and deep fried okra, and
Alright, well-
okra. My God, I don't know
Okay, I don't
why
know about that.
people eat that. It's. I would rather just eat like grass, like actual just grass.
Yeah, people like spinach and all that shit. I'm like, why? It's gross.
I could eat spinach. Yeah. Oh yeah.
this is not cardboard. Deep fried cardboard. That's where we should go. So I mean, I didn't want to just keep going down the same WotC train. We all know my opinion on it, and until I hear something that's going to turn a corner somewhere, I don't think that the play boosters is it. I don't think it addresses the actual problem. I think
Revitalizing Magic. You heard it from here first. It's gonna be huge.
I do agree that as far as Universes Beyond, that the cat's out of the bag now. There's no way to get this put away again. There's going to be a nonstop flurry of these Universes Beyond. I think that that's quite clear at this point. We've got the entire next year is going to be just jam-packed of Universes Beyond style products. There's the Lord of the Rings was such a huge success for them. I think they're going to continue banking on that, and it has been rather successful for them. I mean, the collector's edition of the Warhammer 40K decks, it was ridiculous how pricey those got, and all of them came out in terrible condition. Whereas I see Fallout, honestly, probably going to garner a pretty big reception. And let's be honest, the Final Fantasy decks and stuff that they're doing, I think it's getting a whole set.
That's gonna be sick.
It's gonna be huge. People are gonna really just go crazy for that. I think it's been quite a while since there's been a like Final Fantasy trading card game that's been
there's one actively. They have their own. It's active. So Solar God, I'm a big fan of.
I gotta go. I got a party at 8. Nice chatting with you guys.
Birthday.
As always,
later,
yeah.
chat.
Thank you, Matt, for joining us. You take care and have a great birthday. Stay safe out there, buddy.
Later, guys.
Love Lumpia. We used to, when I was over in Okinawa, every Super Bowl, my one of my coworkers' wives would make this giant tray of lumpia. I mean, like, a 2-foot high stack of lumpia. And we're sitting there just mowing on that the whole Super Bowl. It was so good. But no, I
fried cheese.
When you say it's the cat's out of the bag, right? And here's where I'm going with a lot of that. So you got them the first time. Do you think that a second Warhammer 40K Commander deck set would do anywhere near as well as the first Warhammer 40K deck set? No.
Yeah, I could honestly see another 4 main characters from the lore be the legendary creatures that head them up. I could see another set of commander decks that do well, or if they had just like a single set of item come out. If all they did was play boosters and it was supposed to be like specifically a draftable environment, I could see a revisit to Warhammer 40K doing really well. All
right, let me ask you this. The third time it comes out 4 years from now.
No.
And then the fifth time it comes out. And the 10th time it comes out. No. And if it comes out that many times, you're going to piss off the Lord of the Rings players and the Fortnite players and the Fallout players and the Doctor Who players and all the other. That's the problem when you keep dipping your toes. And the Marvel players, like if you want to retain the Marvel players, you're going to have to print a shitload of that and often, right? Because they will leave. They are fickle.
Solar God, that's too true of a point, though. Is they would just change the art and charge you more.
I don't think that you can keep going to the well, even if you get away with it the second time, which is unlikely.
Yeah.
But I would say even the second time wouldn't do as well. When you do it the first time, let me ask you this. The next time they print the 1-of-1 ring serialized, you think it's going to get $2 million? Not a chance. Or a 1-of-1, they do a Happy Days bundle and it's Fonzie's motorcycle is the 1-of-1, freaking.
I was listening
serialized
to
card, it's not going to get $2 million.
Yeah, I was listening to Louie and Josh and George who were on the Kitchen Table TCG May the Zoo Be With You podcast. And with the Marvel set coming up, one of them had made the joke about having a 1-of-1 like gauntlet thing, you know, the power glove that Thanos has or whatever. Yeah, and I can't imagine that Wizards of the Coast stops with this 1-of-1 thing because it did so incredibly well. The amount of like press it got with Post Malone going on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about it, I don't see why they wouldn't do it again. And 100% agree with you. I do not think it will be as big of a splash. The second time you do something bombastic, it's not. It's just not as impressive.
So my point with all of that is what they're doing is not sustainable. What they're doing to generate instant revenue, you know, with the universes beyond, right? I don't think we'll ever see anything surpass the 1-of-1 ring at $2 million. I don't think we're going to see anybody spend that much, even if it was the 1-of-1 Infinity Gauntlet. I don't see that happening. Even Post Malone expressed regret in his poor money spending habits buying the 1-of-1 ring.
Yes.
And he's about the only person that would have that kind of cash that would spend it, right? Like, not only do you have to have that kind of money, you'd have to have the will to spend it on something like that. And who do you sell that to? Who's going to buy that off of Post Malone? How could he ever profit from it? Right? I don't see that ever happening.
Yeah.
It was a gimmick. Everything that they're doing at this point is very gimmicky. You know, ask yourself, does this seem like a sustainable thing? Like the play boosters, I do see that as sustainable, but do I see it as a good thing? I don't see that as a clear, like, this is a great direction to go. I do think they should slim down the product lines, but I don't think that the play boosters that would not have been my choice. I would have combined the set with the collectors.
We'll have to see with Murders at Karlov Manor, which honestly I'm not at all fucking excited about. I don't care, one, for vampires, werewolves, all that like spooky Halloween shit. Number two, like, it's just probably gonna be a crap set. I got a terrible feeling about it. It seems like they're just going to Innistrad the hell out of it, and it's going to be the worst like reception for the play boosters. I could imagine that the sealed environment for it, though, that drafting and you're limited is probably going to be a bit better than the entirety of the set, unless they continue along with their power creep, which right now is, I think the biggest problem with what Wizards is doing is the how rapid sets are coming out. If they put just another couple of weeks between every item that they release, what that would garner them is a little bit more time for the player base to get used to the items that are presented to them. They can decide if they want something. Go ahead.
I think that would only help with one problem that they have, which I don't know if you looked into the numbers that they just released, but one of the big things that they touted is that, oh, hey, we got rid of a lot of excess inventory to the tune of like about 25%. But even getting rid of all that excess inventory since last time this year, or this time last year, they're still down overall.
Yeah, and
right.
I think that
it's so bad, guys, because by buying the time between the sets, all that means is they won't have all this excess inventory sitting around, right? They don't have to do as many Amazon dumps, but realize that that's been garnering the most revenue for them, even if it wasn't the best margin, if you're familiar with all that. So, there are many different signs that you have to look at to see, how healthy is the brand, how healthy is the product. When you, like I pointed out, Dominaria Remastered was not a bad set as far as like boxes go. And had they released Dominaria Remastered the same way they did Time Spiral Remastered, with only one box, right? No collector boxes, just the draft boxes.
Right.
And if it had been stupidly limited, like Time Spiral Remastered was, I think you would have seen very similar success type numbers for Dominaria Remastered. Instead, you have people that bought into it like Pat, who really liked the idea and liked it,
Mm-hmm.
and then 6 months later had to bend over, grease up, and wait for a telephone pole. It was, half price 6 months later on a functionally Masters set.
Yeah,
right?
luckily I didn't buy in at, exorbitant prices, but it was definitely a
but you
monetary
understand what I'm
loss.
saying.
Yeah.
Think of those people that bought massive amounts of that, believing in it at the first of the year. And there were a lot. There was a lot of hype around that.
That's one of the things that unfortunately a lot of people, and I personally, I gotta say, I blame Rudy for this. The idea that there is a profit in holding sealed boxes. I, much like Bob, look at a box as something that I can open up later on and have fun interacting with. I can still use it to draft with my friends. I can have a entertainment value with it. It's not just price point. If I'm opening things up to get singles and I'm, indulging in that side of the game, that's something else. But when I have a box like Dominaria Remastered, I'll be able to have a pretty powerful play experience when I get to chill with my friends. As far as that goes, I don't feel too terrible about it. But the idea that people were, gaining 5-10% every year and that they were going to sell the box after 5 years and make money, I think that era is absolutely gone now. No one is going to be able to do that. And I think Rudy is really left with bags. And he pushed that idea out so far into the community, and a lot of people are feeling burned by it.
Well, honestly, I don't really blame Rudy.
No,
I don't, because that's been for 30 years has been the model that's been followed. The difference is, I hate when I hear Rudy say, "Oh, this is very much like 2018 and 2013 and 2004." Like he keeps. I'm like, but the game has changed. WotC changed. The model changed.
The stewardship of the company is completely different now.
It's completely different. It's a completely different model. They have absolutely decimated cards that are never going to recover. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Cards that had value over 30 years, they might have even got one reprint here, one reprint there, that they have just absolutely opened the floodgates on that. And you would have to 10x the number of people that currently play in order to get the, stop printing and then 10x the number of people that play to let these cards recover. And that's just not going to happen. Certainly not with Universes Beyond, because I really do believe that the direction that they're taking the company, do they expose more people to Magic? Sure. If that was in concert with keeping the healthy model that they had, which was slow and steady, which that's good. That's healthy. But, trying to turn the corner and go, well, let's just get 5 billion people involved with this and fuck the people that were here before, right? If they walk in the door and buy one pack and then go, see ya, I don't like it. If they're not entrenched players, this is what Cynthia Williams and clearly Chris Cox didn't understand, is that they had a 30-year following of people that got out, got in, got out, got in. They had an attachment. And I think this latest direction that they've taken the company in the last 3 to 5 years,
interesting point, Time Capsule,
has pushed out.
Do you think that financially there was maybe an impact with all of the licensing fees that they've had to put out for?
Are you talking about losing money?
Yeah, with the
I haven't gone through with the fine tooth comb, but no, I don't think it was
right.
Sudden.
If I had to guess, with the way
most of these are structured like very little upfront, you're not talking hundreds of millions. I think you'd be surprised, like 50,000, 75,000, 100,000 plus 24% of profit, that kind of model.
Oh yeah.
Is what you're talking about when you license things, right? Additionally, something else I wanted to get onto, so we can get kind of off of Magic and we'll get into a different stream of this.
Don't say MetaZoo.
I do want to get into some different things. Oh, I don't even know about MetaZoo. MetaZoo's not a game in my opinion. It's a flash. I hate to say it. I think Sorcery is a flash in the pan. I think Flesh and Blood might stick around. Lorcana might stick around.
If
Lorcana's going to have to get more product, if they don't get product in people's hands, they're done for. But speaking of Lorcana, that's kind of where I wanted to go. And actually, one of the big announcements this week was the Marvel Universes Beyond. Since we're on Universes Beyond, and it really did get me thinking, because another creator behind the scenes poked me and said, "Ha, what do you think about that?" And other content creators that we like made. Lorcana loses out Marvel to WotC. And I really got thinking about that. I even called some of my LGS friends. Look, there's already other Marvel card games out there. You got Marvel Snap, you got Marvel Champions, you got Marvel Legendary. Like there's other card games out there. Maybe not TCGs, but there's nothing to stop TCGs because look at this. What Disney card game not being produced by Magic, not being produced by Ravensburger, what Disney major IP is coming out in a TCG next year?
Ooh, that's going to be Star Wars Unlimited, Bob.
Oh, Star Wars Unlimited. They beat Magic to the punch. I don't even necessarily think that that's true, right? I think that the way that licensing works now is it's not necessarily exclusive. And my LGS confirmed that for me. That, back in the day, when you had the licensing to make, the action figures or card games or whatever, you had that as an exclusive license, right? Now, it still can be, and I don't think we can find the information, but that's not necessarily true in today's world. You can have multiple licensing of an IP now, right? So there's nothing to say that Lorcana can't make a Marvel expansion, right? We don't know what the contracts are structured like. We don't know that Magic is the only one that could make a Fortnite TCG. And clearly, Final Fantasy is not it because Final Fantasy has its own TCG.
Right. Yeah.
So, again, it kind of stung me at first, and I said, "Wait a minute! I mean, there's nothing to stop any other game manufacturer besides Fantasy Flight Games from making a Star Wars TCG.
Well, I don't
it just
think
depends
that,
on what licensing they have.
As far as the style, the theme, the presentation that they're going for with Lorcana, I honestly feel is just more cartoony, that they are specifically staying within that type of a realm. They want something that's animated. I don't even think
Marvel doesn't have animated.
And to say that they won't do anything with Marvel characters, I just don't think that they'll have live action like characters on their cards. I think for Lorcana, it's going to stay mostly in the animated realm. They might do, like Spider-Man, the Miles Morales stuff, Universes Beyond. I think
time out.
that
they took the cartoony nature of comic books and turned them into the Marvel movies, not the other way around. So Spider-Man and all that started as cartoons.
Right.
And Lorcana is cartoony, you just said. So I don't get that at all.
That the Marvel movies, the huge like Endgame, Avengers, stuff like that, with live action people in them, I don't think that we'll ever see anything like that in Lorcana. That it would just be the animated versions of those characters.
Sure.
So instead,
I don't think they would change their art style to mimic the universes, or the live action anything. No, but even Star Wars is all cartoony now. If you haven't watched Rebels and like the Clone Wars and oh my God, so the Young Jedi and all these other different things that are all cartoony.
The style of Star Wars Unlimited is they went for very heavily animated, and not CG type of animation, but all hand drawn, cartooned artwork.
So I would imagine that they're going to keep it kid friendly.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. So I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever include Marvel. I don't know if they'll ever include Star Wars in Lorcana. What I'm saying is the whole licensing issue. I don't think that's that much of an issue. I mean, they would have had to have written that. And oh my God, if you want exclusive licensing on a thing, they'd have to pay through the roof. Might not even be worth it to get those kind of rights on an exclusivity kind of contract. So just because Magic's doing a Marvel TCG expansion multi-year contract thing doesn't mean that Lorcana is not going to touch those IPs as well. Right. Even though I don't think they really have to. I think they have a deep enough pool of stuff to pull from.
No, and my guess is if Lorcana was to do anything particularly Marvel heavy, superhero focused, I would imagine that it would be a ways down the line when they need to introduce a bit more variety, spice, change things up.
I mean, we haven't touched Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, like so many of the Pixar stuff, like The Incredibles, blah, 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 blah.
Right, and there's still so many characters that have yet to be explored in some of the more classic art from Disney, and I think that with Rise of the Floodborn, since it's going to be a reimagining of the characters we've seen already, that they've got a lot of space to explore as far as the characters that they have been given. And like you've said before, we don't know any of the specifics of contracting, so we don't know what characters they're allowed to work with. And
I think you'll just see the same characters, different Mickeys, different,
right,
different Fables, different,
we
Jiminy
need more
Cricket.
Goofies.
We do need more Goofies, but like we've already seen how many different versions of Mickey, right? There's already at least 6, 7 different versions of Mickey. Well, Harry Potter's not in their IP, but nice
is that what, Warner Brothers?
Maybe, I don't know. But I don't know that they necessarily even need to touch different IPs to have different flavors of Mickey, different flavors of Minnie, different flavors of Tinkerbell, and the other popular cards already, Simba and all the different princesses and princes and shit.
Yeah, it's WB.
But don't write off like I did some thinking about that because I kind of got in a conversation. It does surprise me that Disney let Magic have their IP. I think that's a much bigger win for Wizards than it is for Disney itself. Disney could have purely just had Lorcana release a set of Marvel instead, right? Like Disney did not need to sell that to WotC. And I think they could have sold just as many. The bigger problem is that Lorcana can't deliver product, and they've got to get that fixed, and they need to really get it fixed in a hurry.
100%. I think that if 100% clarity, I think more people would be into buying boxes even if they didn't have a change in the security seal method if the boxes were available. If they were $150 a piece, if they were readily available, Best Buy, Walmart, everywhere had blister packs, for the hangers. You could get decks everywhere. I don't think that the lack of quality security sealing would be that much of an issue if people had lots of it.
I agree. The bigger problem with like security seal is just buying it on secondary market, right? The people you punish with that are the scalpers and the people that are investing and holding on to Lorcana. And I've said it over and over again. I wouldn't invest in Lorcana. Like it's just not wise to me.
And I mean, we got Time Capsule saying that it's almost $17 for a pack of Lorcana at his LGS, and my LGS doesn't even open until November 1st. Shout out Brad.
You better go there first. You better call your troll down there and see if he'll hold a box or two of Lorcana for you.
Oh yeah, well, so that's the thing is I'm going to go down. They're reopening for the first time since the floods on November 1st. So I'm going to go down on that day and at least buy a little bit of product, talk to the owner again.
Cool.
But I would absolutely love to, secure some actual pre-orders, but hard telling not knowing.
So I mean, I don't know how much I think all of these things that WotC does is going to improve numbers in the short term, right? But even everything that they did since last year, even with the Lord of the Rings, even with all the serialized cards, even with all the massive amounts of reprints, they've done more reprints this year than any other year in their history. Even with all of that, their numbers are down year over year. I think that everything that they're doing at best is a short-term game for long-term loss. I think that they're losing the entrenched players is what we're seeing. And at $16 a pack, that's just absurd. Was that I didn't see it. Was that Time Capsule that put that up there?
Yeah, Time Capsule was saying it's $17 at their LGS, and Solar God saying 16 a pack is redonkulous.
Well, Magic does it all the time.
That's unacceptable pricing. Like,
Well,
and
but Magic does that and more. They have $75 packs.
but it's also something that sells for that across the board. This has got an MSRP, a declared pricing model. And that's the disparity here. There is no MSRP. There's no declared value.
No, I agree. I mean, the point is you have the predatory people out there. And I hate them. I'm not one of those. Even if I buy for investment purposes, mine is a. Let me ask you this: for those of you that feel $16 a pack is ridiculous, how many would be absolutely in love with paying $16 a pack for MTG Alpha, or Legends, or Beta, or Antiquities?
Well,
or
the only
Urza
reason
Saga.
I would want to get any of those cards.
No, I'm asking you because you said that $16 is ridiculous. Would it be ridiculous for any of those sets I just named?
Yes, on two fronts. Yes, it would be ridiculous to pay $16 a piece for that because the current value of the cards in those altogether would be far more than $16 a piece. So yeah, that would be too cheap for what's there.
Okay,
and then the flip side of that.
My point is, what's the difference?
What's that though? Hold on, I want to answer for you. The flip side of that, if you were to actually have enough of that product and people were buying it at $15 a piece, the packs wouldn't hold the value anymore. Those singles.
Okay, cool. So then let me change that. Is it ridiculous to pay $15,000 a pack for Alpha? Is it ridiculous to pay $7,000 a pack for Beta? Is it ridiculous to pay $800 a pack for Legends? And I'm saying, how do you guys feel about the people charging those prices? Do you feel that they're being predatory? Then the answer is no. And let me explain the difference here and what I'm talking about. The type of investment that I'm willing to do and hold on is the investment of vintage and time. That okay, even if I do buy things for investment that I just want to sit on for a long time and sell, because that's mainly what I'm doing with Flesh and Blood. And with Magic, maybe some of that will happen. Most of it I'll be happy to be stuck with and open in the future. I don't have a problem with people buying a certain amount because guess what? It's expensive to store cards and keep them in great condition over long periods of time. The people that are buying these Lorcana boxes that have only been out for 2 months and trying to charge 3 to 4 times the actual price of the MSRP for a pack, that's despicable. Somebody that held on to a box for 30 years and then sells it at an extreme price compared to what he paid for it, that's 30 years of payment for storage, care, keeping track of. Most of our lives get busy and we move many times in that 30 years, of the security that's put on that, of the air conditioning and quality environmental control that's placed on those boxes and care and handling. So that's fine if you're holding on to some of those for that. Now, if you're buying up the entire supply and can't let the game breathe enough to even get off the ground, so that you might hold on to it for 30 years. And if you hold on to it for 30 years and you starve the game out, well, that's just dumb, right? So most people that are holding on to product boxes and whatnot, or even a couple of cases for 30 years, that doesn't destroy the game. The ones that are buying 15 cases at a whack, the ones that are buying 30, because that means they're doing some kind of backroom dealings. That you're not getting that a quantity of product unless you've done something pretty sketchy. That is predatory, and I don't promote that type of buying. Even if you were buying for investment in Lorcana, I plan to hold back maybe a box or two, right? Not 10 boxes. I have exactly 2 boxes of Lord of the Rings from 1995 limited Middle Earth collectible card game, the Wizards boxes, sitting up on my shelves, 2 of them that I've had for almost 30 years now. And that's the way that I see it, as being somewhat healthy. So even if I sell those, and let's say they're only worth like maybe $400 or $500 a box. There. What's that?
You've been going in and out a little bit here and there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Even if I was holding on to those for 20 years and they're worth 10 times, I held on to those boxes and they traveled with me back and forth across the Pacific Ocean and whatnot. And I put the time and effort and care into keeping those boxes safe for 30 years. But I don't have 25 cases of them. It costs money to hold on to that. And so 2 boxes
also,
didn't hurt that game one way or another.
Premium. As a bachelor, having as many trading cards as I do in my apartment it takes up a decent amount of space, legitimate real estate space in my apartment. It's no joke for sure. And I used to collect all the empty boxes that I had opened of different Magic products. I just couldn't keep it. And it's just not worth keeping around. And I'd rather have a cool, flaming background than a bunch of empty boxes from MTG. So I just threw them all away recently. But it's
so what I'm saying is like what those people are doing, the ones that you and I were looking at the pictures of in the Discord for Lorcana, that is despicable. Rudy, God bless him. If he's got a lot of heavy bags and he can make a bunch of money by holding on to thousands of boxes, hundreds of cases, maybe even thousands of cases, he's paying for warehouse storage. And if you've ever owned a climate controlled warehouse, especially in Florida, God bless you, because that costs you every year. So every year you have that box, and every year you're paying for that electricity, air conditioning, security systems. That's biting into the cost average for you to hold on to those, so that somebody who your kids that are watching you guys now open Magic and all these other card games, that 25 years from now when they have jobs and might finally start getting a few extra pennies that they can buy things, and they can buy one of these boxes like, man, I remember my dad opened that kind of thing. I think that's not so unhealthy, and you have to have some people like me. Rudy, I think, is a little more industrial scale, and I think, God bless him if he can pull it off. But, we want to have in this hobby people like me, the dolphins that hold on to a few boxes to a few cases of things over the years, so that when we do finally have the money 5, 10, 15 years now, or our kids have the money for it, that at least there's that avenue, because you're not going to be able to go on Amazon and buy it. You ain't going on TCG Player and buying it, not usually. TCG Player is kind of new. We didn't have that growing up. You couldn't go 15 years ago on TCG Player and buy some shit.
Right.
So it's nice to have that now, that we have that. And I think there needs to be a healthy amount of that. And there's a point at which it becomes unhealthy. And we see a lot of that, unfortunately, from the predatory people. So hopefully we'll see something happen to fix that. So I do hope they print the shit out of Lorcana. It needs it desperately if the game's going to survive.
Absolutely.
I think it's being choked out right now.
Yeah, not enough people can play.
There's no air to breathe.
Yeah.
It literally can't get off the ground, because you can't even get packs to buy it at the store or get your friend into it if they just heard about it yesterday. Right? It's just, there's nothing there. And so Ravensburger really needs to, they said that there was something supposed to come out in the first week of September, right? The LGSs were supposed to get their second wave. Yeah. They've never gotten it. And here we are almost in November, and they still haven't gotten their second wave.
Yeah, I know.
We got almost nothing in the first wave.
There was the early to mid October restocking a little bit for some of the big box stores, and that's where I was able to score my units from. But outside of that, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket.
I don't want to say worthless. Boy, that's an interesting statement, but no, I don't think it'll become worthless. And I've said since the beginning, I want it to be a game, and that's fine if it becomes a wax era level. I don't want it to be the next, Flesh and Blood or Sorcery that just spikes super hard and then crashes super fast. I'd like to see it become a good, healthy game. I think it deserves to be a good, healthy TCG. As part of that, we're seeing that there's clearly the predatory time capsule LGSs out there that, even your LGS is raking you over the coals, and that anybody who can buy it at $200 a box even is turning around and selling it at $375 on TCG Player. And that's just out of reach for so many people.
Yeah. Well, 100%. I mean, it's got no good health of the game if people aren't able to buy the cards. Even there's no secondary market if people can't purchase anything. I mean, you can't buy and sell just the same high priced items back and forth. There has to be like stock.
Supply chain. Yeah.
There's a lot of different reasons that honestly they don't want it to be a collectible card game in that manner. It's supposed to be like a trading card game. They told us at Gen Con, and they've said in numbers of press releases, is that they want it to be available for people to play it. And I think that's probably the best thing for the game, especially with how they've made some cards, the enchanted cards with the alternate artwork on them, so rare that there is still going to be some sort of chase in their product lines. So I think that's supposed to be their mission statement, and honestly, they're not following through with it right now.
I don't think it's their fault though, right? I think that all the supply lines, like I honestly believe that the LG or the trading card game suppliers, the manufacturers, they need to adjust to the current reality of the environment out there, meaning that you have bots that are immediately scraping all the websites, that you have the people that have no jobs going out there and sitting every morning at Targets and Walmarts and just snatching up any product that's out there. That I guarantee you there's people that's the only way I can see it happening. They have made inroads with distributors and are just getting the product that were promised to stores, but they're paying them a bit extra to the distributors. I'll guarantee you that's what's happening. Is you're having literal people buy what would have been store stock, because I know stores that said they placed orders and got none of it from their distributor. So who's getting that? Because I haven't heard any stores getting too much. So what that means to me is that there's some shady shit happening behind the scenes of people, individual sellers on TCG Player and such, that are buying this from the distributors. Like they're not held accountable. So, I think that they need to adjust the way that they sell. I think that honestly, I believe that Ravensburger should invest in some tech, some IT folks, to be able to sell from their site, and have a model implemented where they only let X amount go to each mailing address, right? Even if it's a post office box and you want to get them, and then you can only get maybe say 2-3 boxes per mailing. Let me ask you, how many people would have been upset with Lorcana if you could have only got 3 boxes? That's it. That's your limit. I don't think most people would be upset with that.
I think people would certainly be upset because that's just people. But I think that would have been a better model for the release, is to make it more even, to have a limited purchase model of some way, whether it's maximum number of boxes for shipping address or payment method, however they decided to put a cap on it. I think absolutely that something should have been handled better, and hopefully they've learned from this debacle. We'll see in a month or so with their second.
And realize that in the scheme of things, look, Lorcana has been a company for all of a minute. Literally, it's been less than 3 months, folks.
So they're gonna plan, if they're gonna print Lorcana into oblivion, it definitely can't be $300 a box for just game pieces. Yeah,
I agree.
And it's supposed to be half.
And they don't want it to be. Trust me, the people from Ravensburger that we talked to in Indianapolis, they're actually pretty upset with the way things have kind of rolled out. Even the initial release,
to have more than 1,000 boxes per day for sale over the world's largest gaming event. I mean, the promos were going for near $1,000 at their peak, right? And that means that people are really interested in it. There were people that were standing in line from 10 p.m. all the way to 7 a.m. for the initial sales of it. There's no way I'm standing in line or sitting in line for.
No, they didn't even open the hall till 10 o'clock. So if they were there at 10 p.m., they were there till at least 10 or 11 a.m. the next day.
Just absolutely ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
like we've had people saying here, that's a lot of other TCGs, Pokemon, similar kind of thing. People were lining up at the Van Gogh exhibit so that they could get their specialty promo cards there. It's definitely a hype thing in different TCGs, and if there's quantity enough of a product, it kind of reduces the demand, or at least meets the demand. And
No,
right
I would
now,
honestly, I think you had it right the first time. It does reduce demand, but who is it that it's reducing the demand from? Not the players, right? It's the scalpers. It's the predatory people that lose
well, I
interest
think that,
when there's a
yeah,
plethora.
if there's enough to meet player demand, there's no
Yes,
market for people scalping the product. If I'm just able to buy it for $175 from bestbuy.com all damn day long, then there's no reason for people to buy and sell it for $225. There's just no
sure.
market. Right. So I think that definitely would drive some of the negativity in the
I
back.
don't agree with that statement, Solar God. I don't believe it's necessarily just designed for children. Um, it's have you not played it? If before making that assessment, I would go out and try it out on Pixelborn, and let me know how much you still hold to that sentiment. Honestly, it gets pretty sweaty. I'm not even gonna lie. Like it gets sweatier than I like.
I'd like
On Pixelborn.
if it was more than 20 lore. Um, if it were like
I wish there
25
were
or
alternate
30,
conditions. I wish there were better ways to combat lore, right? Because it's like once you start getting it, and once you get there's that critical mass, right? That once you get to like if you're at like 16 lore and the other person's at like 3, it's like there's almost no hope of catching up, right? So I wish there was a little more lore reduction or lore stealing in the game, to kind of open up those avenues,
Purple's
so
got a
to speak.
little bit of it. I think Ursula
They
was
have a
doing
little bit, but I don't think they have
it.
enough, right? Usually
Oh, and
it's like a runaway.
to speak to
Oh, and
uh
the mill decks are just
like a
annoying as shit.
Sombade, I'm not sure. So I think people would have been upset if they didn't get what they wanted in their 3 boxes. 100%. And across the board for any TCG, any
Yeah, I mean,
RNG
I get
based
that.
gamble game. If I'm opening up Flesh and Blood, if I have a box of Flesh and Blood, one of the first things I do, because I'm just scum like this, is I go on TCG Player and I sort by most expensive and I look for the cards that, oh hey, if I see this, I know I got a banger, a big winner. Any pack opening video on YouTube is exactly that concept. Shit, that's
Sure.
how Anthony makes all his videos. It's financial analysis of items. That's a whole market. So yeah.
I think I did make I did I don't think I made my point clear enough. Is that they need to control like who purchases better, right? There needs to be better controls on not allowing the predatory personalities out there to take advantage of the markets, right? They need to control that. And there's only a few ways you're going to be able to do that. You either physically limit it by like saying, look, if you have a bot that buys something, it has to go to a different mailing address, right? And so if you're going to start maintaining 25, 35, 40 different PO boxes, you're going to pay that price, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Reminds me, I gotta pay
That they have to come from different credit cards, different PO boxes, Yeah, but it's my daughter that wants to buy a box, and I want to buy a box. Tough. You get it one per household, or
right.
3 per household, 3 per credit card. They need to put those kind of controls in place, at least initially, to get it spread out to more players, to more people. Right?
Yeah, to have actual exposure of the product to its market base. I mean, how they're
so
doing it right now.
If you didn't get the cards you wanted out of your 3 boxes, you know what? At least maybe your neighbor did or somebody else did, and it becomes that trading card environment. When you put it in the hands of these predatory people, you have $1,000 Elsas and $400 boxes, right? And
it's funny,
that's
I had gone through out of the cards I got, the 2 biggest ones were 2 copies of Maleficent, that big dragon one, right? I don't want to play that. I think it's a dumb card. There's no way I'm going to like ever get 8 ink to be able to do that. At that point, the game's already decided. So yeah, that's the trading card game portion of it. Somebody else is going to want that. And that's great. That's what drives it. It's one time I've been down in my LGS and actually traded cards with people. Hey, what up, hillbilly? And that's a dying thing in a lot of TCGs. And unfortunately, Magic's problem is they print too much product. And Lorcana's issue right now is they're not printing enough of it. Flesh and Blood, there's not enough people that play it.
I don't know. I keep hearing that it's doing well, and they're getting bigger and bigger numbers at their player tournaments. And I think that that's kind of a good, solid, slow-paced way to build a solid community, right? Not every company needs to come out of the gate being a billion-dollar company. Totally if they manage the company fine, slow growth will be healthy for them. Honestly, I'm a big fan of what the management of Flesh and Blood is doing. I'll be honest, I'm not really big into their gameplay. It's just not really for me.
I get that. It is very heads up. It's adversarial. That's what I didn't like about playing Modern in Magic the Gathering, was just how direct of the gameplay it is. That's one of the reasons why Commander Raids is so much fun, is that it's more of a cooperative experience. And I have heard that Pit Fighter, the Flesh and Blood multiplayer format, is supposed to be pretty good. And actually, same thing for Lorcana.
Yeah.
It's not supported on Pixelborn, but I've heard that 4-player Lorcana is the way that it was designed to be played. And
I've heard it's more fun. I haven't tried it yet, but I heard it's more fun
earlier. 20 lore seems like a pretty low barrier. And if you've got 3 other people that you're fighting against, you've got to spread that around. So you might not have those runaway games like you were saying as much.
Yeah. I mean, and at any rate,
take care, Time Capsule.
The point that I was trying to make with the better controls, I think that the LGSs really need to be a healthy part of that if they want the game to grow. You need a place to play it, and you're going to have to let the LGSs be a part of that, right? You have to let them, if they're going to be predatory like Time Capsules, LGS, I don't think that they're going to have a healthy environment in their store. And if that's the way they want to cut their own throat, short-term gain, long-term loss.
Yeah.
If there's another store that opens up somewhere nearby that supports a better, healthy play environment, then you can only have 3 packs. We'll sell them at MSRP, but that's all you get.
Right.
I think that's a much better model. I think that the LGSs need to be in a real partnership, and as part of that, it might be shocking for you to hear, I don't think they should sell it. And if they have such limited quantities, I think it was short-sighted of them to start selling it through big box stores. I said it before. I thought it was weird that all of that product, 100% of it, should have gone to the LGS.
I think everybody agrees with you, MTG Hillbilly, is that no one can find Lorcana anywhere. And if you can, buy all of it. I mean, that's pretty much,
I got some of that, and I got a couple of those.
Ooh.
I got more of that. And, I got more upstairs.
Just make sure you let Sherry open them, because she's got the good luck hands,
Oh my God! When you were saying that the enchanted foils are so rare, she pulled 2 out of 9 packs plus the legendary. By the way, the legendary cold foils are pretty close to being as rare as an enchanted foil.
Okay.
Right.
Hey, so, what up, Coach?
Yeah, there's Coach talking shit about you earlier. You're always so late. What's happening, buddy? You think you're cheating on us somewhere else before you pop into our show?
Right.
At any rate, I think that needs to be a control mechanism that not just Lorcana, but any game that comes out, especially one that's, got a lot of momentum behind it, the One Pieces, the Flesh and Bloods, maybe even Sorcery, as much as I don't get it. They need to build a more homogenous, a more natural relationship that's symbiotic, truly symbiotic, like it was once upon a time with the LGSs, because it's still the only place. Like, where do you go? There's not like, hey, there's y'all have like a like those, like, oh god, I can't remember what Scene 75 or something like that is what they got here. It's like a big, like it used to be a supermarket, and now it's like video games and laser tag and trampolines and all that shit. And what was an old supermarket, and like hot dog stands and shit, just for like kids and teenagers and whatnot to go play. Right, like it's an arcade and lots of different things, skee ball, and you get what I'm saying. I don't even know but I know they have like laser tag, but you understand what I'm saying. They have those kind of things. These fun centers, I think is what they're called.
Okay, yeah.
But you don't have that for card games and board games, right? You don't have, like, there's not even a word for it. The closest we have for it is a LGS, right? That's where you go play board games and card games and whatnot. So if it's not a symbiotic relationship with them, then all you have are just the retail outlets, and that's not healthy for these games that need to be played by people that are not under the same roof, right? You need to have a tournament environment. And where are you going to do that besides the LGS? So I think WotC, at least it appears like they're starting to recognize that, is what I'm hearing. So, I mean, give credit where credit's due. That whoops, maybe we shouldn't have given them the big fucking middle finger, but they still do with the Amazon dumps, right? I think that Lorcana needs to pay very close attention to that. I think all new card games.
One of the things I've wondered about for a long time is, what is the model of the relationship between Wizards of the Coast and Amazon? How is the exchange of product work there? My personal belief is that Wizards and Amazon have Wizards sells a quantity of product at a certain price, and I don't think that Wizards is changing their price all the time. I bet a lot of that money actually goes to Amazon.
Oh, if you're talking about the algorithm, I'm sure. No, I'm sure they just sell like, okay, here's your pallet loads of product, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we see them, that's probably why I doubt that WotC was like, fuck it, let's empty the warehouses of Dominaria Remastered and sell it at half price.
Right.
I don't think that was a WotC move. I think that was more likely Amazon said, all right, yeah, we'll take your product and we're going to sell it at 10% markup like we normally do. And they probably just sold it to Amazon at that kind of price, right?
Yeah.
And then Amazon has its own web crawling engines and AIs that go out there and see what the market value and blah, blah, blah. So I'm sure it's not like a human being actually looking at the numbers. I'm sure it's all computer generated stuff. But I don't think that's a great thing for such a cottage industry. And I hate to tell you, but yeah, even at $1 billion, TCGs are still a very cottage type industry. Gaming is a very cottage type industry, comparatively speaking. And it needs a more personal attention to the relationships that you have with both your retailers and your customers. And I think, WotC's kind of, I think they got too big for their britches and they felt that they outgrew that, right? That they're a big enough retailer that people are just going to buy their product forever and ever and ever. And all we have to do is follow the formulas rather than listen to the players. And I think that even you heard Richard Garfield at M30 talk about that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think that it'll be healthy enough to get away from the insane experience that we've had over the last 3 years with, pack cracking and get back to a more game-friendly environment. Now, does that make me start sounding like I think you should have game pieces? No, because it is still a collectible thing, right? And I think that there was once upon a time a healthy collectible environment in Magic, and then greed entered the picture, and that spoiled everything. It upset the apple cart, and then you got the wrong people in charge that played into that and are still playing into it. They're still not addressing the fundamentals, and they're still going after more gimmicks. I hate to say it, but when you said, "Oh, with the Fallout," it was nothing that they did with the game mechanics. It was nothing they did with print quantities. It was nothing they did with distribution. It was none of that. It was purely the IP. Purely the IP. That's it.
I'm a big fan of the Caesar face card they have for the commander deck. Tokens go wide.
Okay, fine. Okay, but that's it. That's in so many different things. You know what I'm saying? Like when you know, like Mondrak is just a beast when it comes to tokens go wide. Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But that's not really, you know, that's not like even a card that people were like gaga over. It was like, oh, that's a good card. I don't think it ever got over $20, and it's probably like a $5 to $10 card now.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, it's a wider umbrella than it ever has been, but it's still quite niche in comparison to, you know, even some indie, video games. So, you know, if you look at like the Xbox, Microsoft's acquisition of Blizzard Blizzard and Activision and King, right? ABK. It was like $65 billion or something, which is just ridiculous money compared to like what a trading card game it could ever imagine to be.
And part of what I was getting with that is that, you know, I think they got too big for their britches and feeling like it's any other product, like, you know, this bottle of water, right? That, you know, the way you market this bottle of water, you really don't listen to a specific store or a specific, you know, human being out there, because you sell these bottles by the trillions, right? That you don't necessarily have to have that personal relationship to craft the selling environment for this fucking bottle of water, right? It is a different beast, a different animal, just like a pack of Bic pens or even these freaking glasses or a t-shirt or so many other things. A trading card game is not these retail items, and that it is much more sensitive to the where you sell it, how you're selling it. Did you remake them? You know, that the audience is going to, how much do you give a shit, Pat, that the glasses on your face are made in the billions or trillions and hundreds of new models were sold and made of those? Do you even give it a second thought?
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. I just needed glasses.
Right? Or the shirt on your back, or my pair of glasses.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, to your point, that's one of the things about Magic in general, is that people don't have to buy the product. Whereas other things, you know, a bottle of water in your instance, that is something that people need to consume. It's such a wide consumption, right? Whereas the base of MTG enthusiasts is niche enough that I think what you were alluding to is that Wizards thought they were going to be able to cast a wider net. And by switching their base model from local gaming stores being the big outlet for their product and going up to, you know, chain retailers, box stores, that they thought they were like classing up, you know, that they were changing their distribution methods. And by they were able to probably focus more on developing sets at a faster rate, and it ended up almost certainly, in my opinion, biting them in the ass. Because if they don't have people in the gaming stores that want to keep coming back and buying the product, you know, Amazon would drop Wizards if they stop selling enough of it. If they're not pushing volume, then it doesn't matter. They'll just drop it. Whereas in LGS, they certainly want people to keep coming back because there's so many. It's dedication. It's not so much quantity, it's dedication. And if an LGS makes money off of their Mountain Dews and Cheetos sales, and it's not so much fueled by the quantity of packs, you get people in the store for a while. They're coming in on Sundays to play Commander. They're buying Twinkies and all this other shit. Maybe they buy a book because it's a freaking bookstore. You know, the model's not what it used to be, and how they are selling their product is reflected in the product itself. And I don't personally like this era in Magic. But
well, I don't think it's just you know, confined to Magic either, though, because I hear, you know, I keep my I'm not a huge D&D player, but I do keep my, you know, some tabs on it, and I watch other D&D content creators and whatnot. But from what I understand, it's becoming the same thing in LGS for D&D as well. Like it feels like WotC, as you said, and I like the way that you put that, is trying to cast a wider net of, let's just get more people to buy it in the short term and push it just like any other product in the world. And, you know, if we just make enough of it and get it out at the big box stores, that's what matters. But I think that they have, like you said, most people will buy a bottle of water, maybe not even because they need a bottle of water, but just because it's a bottle of water, and people will take it on camping trips and whatnot, or just some people like drinking because they think it's more filtered than their tap, which it generally isn't.
Right.
That they're trying to sell it like those products, like a cigarette or like anything else that they just feel could be mass produced and sold. And agreed, yes, they're just trying to cast this very wide net to get as many sales from as many people as possible. Damn the consequences, but if we've increased sale volume at least temporarily for this quarter, next year, pushed it during an environment, I think that what they've done to do that has damaged them. Like, I'm hearing LGS is just like Troll and Toad to say Magic's not profitable enough. I've heard local game stores say that they've cut back massively. Even the people that are pushing it, Rudy himself was talking about how much less he bought of Magic than he has historically in the past. Because he's just and guess why Rudy would buy less of it? What would push Rudy to buy less? Because he's selling less.
Yeah.
So that, and that's what I say. Short-term gain, long-term loss, and the way that they've been fueling that engine is by every gimmick that they can think of. Serialized cards, crossover IPs, flashier borders, more product. Amazon dumps is even just a way that they can push more of the product out there. The problem is if it's killing the real arteries and veins of their network, the LGSs themselves that make the game work, that gives people a place to play the game, to stay connected to it, to hear news about it, to get that hype themselves personally going, to have the experiences and memories with the cards that you need to have, because not everybody has a strong enough social network that you can be playing it at your home. So by killing the grassroots of what they're doing, it's like, Ethiopia used to be a green fertile valley, and then they ran through famines and shortages, and they started eating the seeds for the crops that they were sowing, and then they had no more soil, and the soil all blew away, and now there's no soil to plant seeds in, even if they had them. So it's just like that. If you get rid of the foundation, the fundamentals, and you clear cut what's there to make a short-term profit, you're killing future environment, and it would be so much harder for them to reestablish things that they've already hosed. I don't know how they're going to get out of that. And if Lorcana's not careful and doesn't, because I'm hearing so many complaints about LGSs, from LGSs about, like, they don't even want to hear Lorcana at this point. That's bad. That's very bad. This early in, that you call a store, call your local game store. Here's a little homework assignment for everybody out there. Just pick an area, pick 10 random game stores around the country, this nation, and call them and ask them about Lorcana, and see if the response you get is positive or, yeah, I get a dozen calls a day. Can't get my hands on that shit. Love to hold the tournament. Can't do it. And that is not a good look for Ravensburger. I don't know what they need to do, what Ravensburger, for me, that they need to do to give me some confidence in the game, is not just put out one cryptic damn message once, like a month ago, that there's going to be these alternate waves. They need to keep us updated. I'm sure they have information on exactly where they're at in this reprint process, and they need to be transparent and be sharing that with the stores, with the players, with the public at large. Even if it gives information to the scalpers, it helps keep the faith with the people that are curious about it. Because I look out there all the time for Lorcana, and I don't see any fucking news other than, people talking bullshit and, pulling stuff out of their ass. Nobody knows anything. and that's a problem. So there's a couple of really bad looks for Ravensburger, and where I think they're starting to handle it wrong is, you said you were going to have wave 2 in September. Never happened. You said you were going to have wave 2 reprints coming out in October. Never happened. Yet we're seeing very little information come out of Ravensburger about the reprint cycle. So I think that's already a bad look for them. Not to start bashing on Lorcana, because you guys know how much I've enjoyed it, but I think these are things, I got to be fair and equal. They got to start being more transparent. They got to start sharing that info with us. Somebody knows it, whether it's good or bad, even if it's bad. You ever done a Kickstarter, Pat?
I don't think so, actually.
All right, I've done a bunch. So let me tell you what it's like. So it's like some private schmuck that's trying to make a game, and that's not fair to say schmuck.
Right, I'm familiar
But
with
if any
them.
of you, how many in the audience, please let me know in the comments here tonight if you've ever backed a Kickstarter. Almost
Yeah,
none of
shout
them.
us out.
Just so you know, Pat, when you back them, almost none of them go off the way that the person that's
Right,
making the
yeah,
game
yeah.
expects it to go, and it's always delayed. Like every one of them is delayed. It's
Yeah.
almost like clockwork, right? But
Yeah.
the ones that people really start flaming about are the
90%
ones
scams.
that are the ones where there's no information, right? Where they don't tell you about the printing delays. You can go back and look at the Seb McKinnon playmat ones. Every one of them they all, so if you're going to back a Kickstarter, folks, just be prepared for delays.
Mm.
But the ones that tend to be not so bashed are the ones where the person's coming out, even if they're like, man, there was a shipping container delay in, Shandong, China, and it's held up in the port in San Francisco because some, tax form
freighter
wasn't
ship stuck in
filled
the
out.
Suez Canal or whatever.
Right,
Jesus.
but the ones that I enjoy, the ones that I appreciate and will come back to again, are the ones that kept me informed. Like, even if I didn't like what was happening, dude, I have one game. It took 4 years to get the product. Right, 4 years after the Kickstarter closed. Yo, what's up, Bill Brain? So I think what Lorcana needs to start doing at this point, if they cannot, proof is in the pudding, start putting more cards into your hands, Pat. They need to start telling us why the delays are there, what kind of issues that they're running into, and be real with the buying public. They need to start establishing that sort of rapport in, like I said, I hate to say the word cottage industry because it's not like, Coca-Cola flavored nachos or something, but they need to start being more transparent. I think WotC's just a lost cause with that. I like what Flesh and Blood does. They feel pretty transparent with everything that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
I think even MetaZoo, from what I hear, is pretty communicative about what goes on with them.
Well, so one of the issues with MetaZoo, and it's odd, for every single set they've put out, they've been late.
Is late.
Yeah. Which is one of the funniest things to me, is that if there are people that are clamoring for it, well, fucking give it to them on time. I mean, at least
be transparent with why the delays.
Yeah, and I mean, it just across the board, communication is always one of the biggest things that a company can do to garner goodwill with their audience. And I do a lot of early access video game stuff, and the community support in some of that is huge. They actually change the game depending on what the community is inputting, and I love that part of doing EA kind of stuff. Whereas with trading card games, I think it's been very clear that the people that play Magic the Gathering have railed against a large amount of the decisions Wizards of the Coast has made, and they just keep trucking right the fuck along. And I think that that's going to be how 2024 is gonna be. We are, in my opinion, just going to be inundated with universes beyond, up to the gills with creatures and characters from other sets. We will have Gandalf fighting the Lone Wanderer from Fallout, along with like Captain America and Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead. We're all going to load up on a battlefield and do some of the dumbest things, and none of the cards will look like they're from Magic the Gathering because it has no identity anymore. It's not the Gathering. Oh, fuck off. Magic is not about the Gathering anymore. It really seems about Magic, the market share. To,
yeah, that's true. That's very true. And we as the players really need to start divorcing from that to some extent. But that doesn't mean that the game should have no value, right? Like, we need to get away from the scratch off mentality, because I honestly think that makes the game even worse. And what do I mean by that? Like these serialized cards, like that's the expectation. Not that it's so rare. Like, I think the way that they need to go back to is something like Ed and I looked at. You didn't buy boxes and packs and cases trying to hit, realistically, the rare treasures or whatever they were called, or even a Kaladesh invention. That's
the
not
invocations and all that
financially. It's not financially sound to just keep opening to try to hit those things.
Good card.
But when you do hit one, if they're rare enough, just like an enchanted, they're rare enough. Right? I think they're in that department. Like if you're buying a case to get an enchanted, you might feel pretty bad about that because you might not get that shit.
Oh
You could
yeah,
buy
shout
2
out
cases
to
and not
like
get
a
one.
home. Yeah, that's exactly. So when you said you got 2 out of like 9 packs, I opened like let's see, I put 3 aside. So I opened I think 15 packs. 0.
Oh,
But
we got a cold foil legendary. So it's like, yeah, dude, and we got a Rapunzel and oh, what's her name? Belle.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and a Lilo and a whole new world. All these out of 9 packs. Yeah, it was stupid what we got. It was and a Cusco.
Ed's saying he's not getting into any new MTG. Are you still going to be buying the hangers for your wall? If you're not going to be doing any, sealed box purchases for long term, are you going to at least, continue the trend for doing that? Let's see. Oh man, the chat is really lively tonight. Thank you all for
you guys got a lot to say tonight. Hopefully we're Are you not entertained? So speaking of entertainment, and before I forget, like since we've been
Solar God, could you explain what the curio is? I've seen Louis do like a curio.
It's like a cold foil.
Okay, so this is like a super rare thing.
Yeah. But okay. So just before I forget, because I'm likely to forget, I teased at the beginning part of the show about the lore lovers out there. So for those of you that might have missed it in the financial earnings call thing, nothing specific, but Mr. Cocktail Party Cox mentioned the Netflix Magic the Gathering show once again. So I think many of us had just thought that withered and died on the vine and disappeared, maybe with the writer's strike. But he did mention it again. So, it's something to keep your eyeballs peeled for. I hope that they do something really good with it. I think that they really desperately need something big like the Arcane. And I think that Magic's big enough that it could pull off, a show that would be just as loved if they do it well enough. Well, like that Arcane show on Netflix. Yeah. So keep looking on Netflix for the Magic the Gathering. And if you get some information, let us know.
Even if it's not the Magic the Gathering audience that's the drive for it, if it's just done well, I think that's one of the biggest things. Good artwork, driven by great storytellers with a good episodic type of involvement. You make sure you have a cliffhanger and you don't get to episode 3 or 4 and all of a sudden the tone of the episodes change.
I just hope we don't see fucking Universes Beyond in it. That would be the real topping of the cake. Like Magic the Gathering Marvel. Like what? That would be the most confusing show ever. That actually might be funny. If they had Rick Grimes in the show facing off against Frodo with space Marines and what were those My Little Ponies with
oh my god, yeah,
with some Fallout dancers and not Fallout, I'm sorry, Fortnite dancers with the teddy bear guy and your Fallout folks with the dog coming in to save the day. Like that would be the most amazing show ever. That would be awesome.
That would just be it was funny. I really enjoyed the movie Wreck-It Ralph. In Wreck-It Ralph, there's like a mishmash of different characters that all come together to kind of like save their little arcade that they all live in. And that conglomeration of different characters, it was just like putting a bunch of memories in a bucket, shaking it around, and then pouring it all over the screen. And I don't know if that type of fever dream is gonna really sell an MTG show, but I also
think it would be hilarious though.
Yeah, but I also I worry that like Teferi's gonna be boring as shit to watch for like 30 minutes at a time. I don't know if like they're gonna go all cutesy with a big kitty cat Leonin dude. But hey, who knows? They could do this in a lot of different ways. I don't know
Well,
that.
they have to. They absolutely have to have the Phyrexians in there, right? At this point.
Oh, right. Well, so that's the thing is there's so many different tones in Magic the Gathering.
I
Like,
love it, Coach. That's amazing.
the way you're described playing with all the different Universe Beyond cards makes me think Lorcana could be less childish. Well, I would love to see the Fallout Boy, right? You know, the thumbs up dude on the back of a My Little Pony, and Captain America is, you know, throwing Gandalf in the air so he can do like a crazy AoE effect. That would be a phenomenal show. But it seems like something that would be made for YouTube by a huge fan instead of like a big ass company to be put
That
on
would be funny as
Netflix.
shit. That would need to be like on that Teen Aquitaine, whatever.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force or something. Yeah,
Yeah, that's more like an episode from that shit. Or like the one with Futurama or some shit.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, keep your eyeballs out for that for the Netflix show, folks. I mean, I don't have any specific information. I'll keep my ear to the ground, just so to speak. Funny enough, like I'm not usually big into lore, but that's actually the most exciting thing for Magic coming up for me. Is like, oh, I'll watch that. I'll get into that.
It's interesting that you mentioned the lore side of it. I wonder if they'll incorporate any of the Universes Beyond aspects, or if it will be solely about some of the mainline characters that we've seen before. If it'll be the discussion of planeswalkers like Liliana, you know, what is the history behind Jace and Teferi? You know, is it going to have a cool big old Nico Bolas at any point? I'd love that. It would probably be better as far as tastefulness.
Dude, I see Nico Bolas is really the OG, like what's that called? The antagonist.
Yeah, the big bad guy.
And I love that lore line. Like I think that could be its own real deep, like multiple season sort of epic following of
if we
just
got like
the penultimate bad guy.
The whole Gatewatch kind of stuff. Everybody coming together to fight this huge evil.
With Ugin, Ugin's got an interesting storyline tied to all of that. Like the whole thing is just really one of the, like, I know Urza's got an interesting storyline, but I think that the Nicol Bolas is really my favorite storyline.
Have you guys had any luck with pre-orders for the new Lorcana set?
Dude, I can show you my pre-order. It's basically the same as it was when I pre-ordered in May, plus what I stacked on for the second set. And it's like, you want to know what got fulfilled? I'm going to show you every bit of what got fulfilled. I'm not even joking. This is everything I got from $2,000 worth of pre-orders that I put out there.
I can tell you straight up. Yeah. That's everything you got from your pre-order.
That's everything I got.
Yeah.
I ordered 10 of these. I got one. I ordered 12 of the draft boxes, got 0.
Jeez, yeah.
I put 2 draft boxes on order in one store and 1 draft box on pre-order in another. I got 0.
For me, I have put in no pre-orders for Lorcana's second set, Rise of the Floodborn, since I don't think that they fixed their lack of production. As
a matter of fact, they stole from the second set print
for the print time for the first that didn't make up for
reprints. Yeah. So I have a feeling what's going to happen is we're probably going to get both of those very close together. The Rise of the Floodborn, and I actually expect the real reprint from the first chapter, the first reprint, to come out slightly after Rise of the Floodborn. That's what I predict is going to happen.
No, I don't think that any pre-orders. I don't have any faith in any of those pre-orders coming through. So I don't want to waste my time getting my hopes up and then being disappointed. So just
understand it. It's not the fault of the people that you're pre-ordering through. Right. That's not their fault.
Right.
It's truly, a colossal blunder and mishandling of the distribution from what they were able to print. Like I said, it was a huge mistake, in my opinion, to sell any of this in any big box store. When it was this small, this tight of a print run, that was a mistake.
Right.
They should have either held it all for Gen Con and had massive sales there. I think that would have gone miles farther. Or
for exposure, yeah, probably.
Sent it all. It would have been better, in my opinion. Well, I think they should have had more tournaments, right? Not just the starter decks. I think that they should have had a bigger presence. Because you have to admit, their actual floor space presence was paltry.
Yeah, very small.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And they didn't have even like a Lorcana play area, right? Not like open. They had the Lorcana play area where they did the starter deck things.
Yeah.
And they had that one room where you could go in and buy like it was right as you walked in. But what they should have had is like dedicated play areas like you did for Magic or many of the other games. Would you guys played Pathfinder out there? There was a perpetual Pathfinder area to play.
Huge area. I was astonished with how large of an area that had. And even the Pathfinder Starfinder area for their sales area on the floor was probably about the same size as Ravensburger's Lorcana booth, which was just astounding. Shit, the Legion's Realms at War. I mean, that was probably about the same size as what Lorcana had for floor space. And
so again, I think they should have had a bigger presence, is what I was saying altogether. Yeah. For as much of the demand that was there at Gen Con for that, they should have had a much bigger presence there. They should have had more promos, more pins, more hats, shirts, everything.
Right.
But beyond that, with the other product that they did have, every ounce of it that they sold in the big box stores, that entire spiel should have gone to the LGSs. Like no doubt. And that would have been a far better choice. It would have regulated things far better. I think you'd have a little healthier environment. Then hopefully they can get to fixing it. We'll have to see. Like how much there's a better question. And there's something else I do want to try to come up with an episode here that involves all you guys out there. And so I want you to start thinking about it. So one thing, would you guys feel that it would have been better for Lorcana to have put all the product through the LGSs at this point? And just, I realize that some people wouldn't have gotten in at retail at a Walmart and whatnot and stripped the shelves bare, but do you feel they could have regulated it slightly better? Second, how long are you guys willing to wait? I'm a patient guy, so I'll wait as long as it takes to get product at my price. If it never gets to my price, then I'll never buy it. But how long are you guys willing to wait for them to catch up on these back orders? I mean, are you guys losing patience, which I'm hearing a lot of rumblings that people are already starting to turn their back on Lorcana because they just can't get it. And so they're just moving on to the next. So how long are you guys willing to wait? I'm willing to wait at least up through like next summer to get the first chapter. But what about you guys? So that's one thing I'd like.
I know I'll buy into it pretty much when it's available.
The first chapter?
Yeah, I'm certainly interested in it.
What if it takes 2 years to get it?
Well, that's when the game really comes out then.
Well, he'll be 8 sets into it by then.
Well, yeah. If there are other things that I'm buying along the way, I'm not going to feel terribly, butthurt about missing out on the first set. If I've had access to the third and the fifth, then it's kind of, a whatever's burger for me.
The other, oh God, I hate this die. So how many people does this trigger? How many people even know what this is?
Oh. Is that a 30-sided dice?
It is.
I think that is a
very
30-sided
specific
die.
30-sided
You've been freezing
die.
up a little bit, Bob.
Came from?
Yeah, we've had some connectivity issues. Yeah, it's a 30-sided dice, right?
Yeah. Do you know what this came from? And it just triggers me because it sits here. This is not what I was waiting for you guys.
Right? Oh, the 30th anniversary countdown thing.
Was that backwards? It looked backwards on my screen.
Yeah, all your shit's been backwards the whole night. I just haven't said anything.
Well, God damn it! Why didn't you say anything? All right, so the real homework type question then.
Content. Like nobody else said anything. Why should I be the detractor of your fun?
Because you're my partner.
Oh shucks.
There we go. Is that better? So
It's all the same.
Here's the homework, another homework assignment besides calling out the LGSs and seeing what the general feeling, the demeanor is from the LGSs about Lorcana. So as a broader question, this is something that I would love to start discussing on the show here, and I would love to have a very active input from all of you guys. And so hopefully we'll put out the feeler for when we're going to have the episode, discussing what would it take, what would you do to fix the TCG world, kind of game by game, go through. What would you do if you were in charge of each of these different TCGs? What would you do to fix the problems that you see in all of the TCGs out there in the TCG world? Like, if we know that scalpers are a thing, what would you recommend to fix that? If you see that Amazon dumps are a thing, or too many products for Magic, or sorcery doesn't come out enough, or the Legion's Realms at War curl like freaking Dixie cups, not even Pringles. They're fully, 360 connection. You can just put a bottom on it and drink out of it. But I'd like to hear from everybody else on, because we all talk a lot about how this game's busted, that game's busted, this is wrong with that game sucks for this. In a more productive light, what would we do? And probably Magic's going to have the bigger list, at least from me. But I'd love to hear from you guys, and I'd love to hear all the creative solutions and things that you have, and maybe we'll even put together a list and send it off for what it's worth, see if we get any kind of response. I do have one card for the PR department at Lorcana. I don't know what good it would do to fire things off to WotC, but we could try in all the different games. Flesh and Blood, just come up with a list of things in your spare time. If you're thinking about it, go, oh shit, I think that would be a great solution for this, I would love to hear, like what my bosses say, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions. And maybe take that approach as, I think, a cathartic healing, at least for me and maybe for you guys, to hear, yeah, I would do that. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. We should schedule an entire episode for just workshopping on different TCGs and, go through with everybody. That'd be real fun.
So we'll try to give some lead time on that. So if you guys want to start thinking about that out there and putting your thoughts together, if you're watching this ex post facto, keep tuning in. And I think it would be best to have it like a live episode and get, lots of different opinions. Maybe we could even get a guest on the show, and who I think would be great. I think Josh would be great for something like that because he's so rah-rah positive. Yeah. I think it would be pretty sweet to have him on, talking about solutions, or maybe we could ask Mark to come back from Solar Games. Though I really haven't, I feel bad. I haven't even tried Grand Archive. I just don't have it in my schedule to really build too many new games into my time frame at the moment.
And I gotta say, I've been jamming out on a lot of video games lately, so I haven't particularly been doing a whole lot for TCGs in general. It's just been overwhelming with the ones that you can get, and saddening for the ones I don't have access to that I want to. But between Baldur's Gate and Starfield and all the different roguelites, I'm just an absolute fan of. Definitely.
Can you say Ark?
What's that?
Can you say Ark's coming up?
It actually just came out, so it's super funny. They had announced that they were doing a gameplay trailer. The first gameplay trailer, and at the end of it, they said, "Oh yeah, we're releasing today."
That's baller.
Yeah. So it didn't. It was actually like 12:30, almost 1:00 in the morning. It came out. I didn't buy it. I wasn't fucking staying up for that. I had no idea until afterwards. But it's definitely, I've seen a lot of gameplay of it, and I didn't realize that it's just a remake of Ark, the original one, but it's all in Unreal Engine 5. So it looks fucking gorgeous. It's only like $40, so I might get it, but who knows? I might just wait until it's on the Xbox, because it's just probably, I'm so used to playing Ark on the Xbox, so I don't know if I'd want to do it on my PC and forego some of the 4K graphics and stuff. Hopefully the optimization will be there for the console edition.
Well, we've certainly mentioned a lot of things tonight to, dig your teeth into. Got some homework assignments to go. Call LGS has put together lists for us. Mentioned a bunch of video games that we're into playing and can fill your nights with. And speaking of which, I've got a family upstairs calling me to do our ritual Harry Potter episodes for the Halloween season.
Oh,
Speaking of
cool,
which, y'all have a great Halloween season out there. Enjoy the trick or treating and the games and whatnot. And keep tuning in to us, please. We love all of you guys, and especially want to shout out and thanks to all of our channel members and all the subscribers. And please continue to help us help the channel grow. We're really
if you
bad
like
at
this
selling
kind of
ourselves,
stuff,
so we need your help.
Yeah, if you know anybody else that would enjoy this kind of content, please, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and also share it to your friends, on all your different socials and all that stuff. And like Bob said, happy Halloween. Stay safe out there. Don't get too wild, and don't go smashing pumpkins. Okay, guys, be good. And I also believe that tomorrow, Sunday evening, we're going to be hosting Fables on Tables yet again. We're having some Dungeons and Dragons live gameplay again. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, check out tomorrow. You can see Matt hosting another game. Until then, y'all take care. Be safe. Love you bunches.